Hello everyone and welcome to Empowering Defense through 5G Smart Warehousing, a dispatch from Sea Air Space, brought to you by KPMG. I'm your host George Jackson, Vice President of Events at GovExec. We're at the premier Sea Air Space Conference to talk about how defense leaders are utilizing industry partnerships to leverage 5G and smart technologies to improve operations and the customer experience. Dan Elzy is Deputy Commander for Marine Force Storage Command. Sir, welcome.
Thank you, sir.
And his colleague here, Joe Demore, Director at KPMG. Joe, good to see you again.
Nice to meet you.
So, Dan, kick us off. Set the stage for this discussion around smart warehousing. What's your portfolio look like? Where does smart warehousing come in?
Okay, so our portfolio, Marine Force Storage Command, we are a subordinate command of Marine Corps Logistics Command. And our portfolio is essentially $12 billion with a B of military equipment and supplies. Principally, we're located in Albany, Georgia and Barstow, California. But we also have warehouses, 52 warehouses at 52 locations around the globe. So generally wherever there's a major Marine presence, Marine Force Storage Command is there with essentially war reserve material and basic combat equipment that the Marines will wear into battle.
What kind of big picture problems are people trying to solve for, Joe, through smart warehousing? What challenge sets are they seeking to address?
Really the velocity and what we call total asset visibility, right? So looking at material, getting it forward deployed to, in this case, the Marine Corps, but also across the DoD. So how do we get that material on time, on target, in the right condition, and do that in the quickest time and amount reduced as possible?
So before we went on the air, Dan, you mentioned this, and I wrote it down so I don't get it wrong here. The Marine Force Storage Command's mission is to receipt, store, and issue combat-ready capability sets. What does that mean?
So that's really focused on our ability to keep equipment that we need for war reserve. When a crisis comes up and the nation goes to war, we hold equipment that we will have to push forward to the forces that are engaged in combat. So our essential mission is that we make sure that we keep it in good condition. We know exactly where it's at, and like Joe says, that the speed to need, getting it out the door and making sure that it's a full up combat capability set, so that this equipment shoots, moves, and communicates as it's intended to do for the nation's Marines.
So decades ago, this was something maybe done on a ledger, written down in
Not
hand?
even decades, I would tell you. Actually, I went down there about 6 years ago, and essentially we were using stubby pencils and paper to do this work in dark warehouses. So we understand it's part of our requirement. We just recognize that we have to get better at what we're doing, and we have to be better stewards of the taxpayers' dollars. And so that's why we've injected technology where we can, when we can, and we've learned a lot in order to make that happen.
What does that technology look like, Joe? What's state of the art, either in the private sector or the public sector, and how does it improve warehousing? How does it improve that visibility that you mentioned?
So some of the visibilities increase that total accountability, right, is through digital twin. That's a capability that's actually enabled through 5G. We use that to do everything from 3D heat mapping within the actual warehouse itself, to speed along inventory, see the conditions, see high demand material within the 3D space. In addition to that, we have optical character recognition, which actually allows us to ingest some of that paper content that we were talking about before. Green logbooks, which typically is the Marine Corps' kind of way of turning in gear. So we can digitize all that material into a system of record, have full visibility of it, condition where it's at, down to a couple centimeters, and the condition code, who paid for it, where it's supposed to go, and who's assigned to, all within one central location. So for us, for our current solution is D365 as a platform using 5G as the technological backbone.
Sounds, Dan, like you're on a journey.
Yeah.
Those 52 warehouses, Albany, Georgia, elsewhere, where are you in that journey?
So we are building the prototype right now down in Albany, Georgia for the smart warehouse. As Joe said, we are it's going to enable us to be completely auditable, and and really perfect asset visibility is what we're going after, as opposed to total asset visibility. And what I mean by perfect is that down to the centimeter level, we can say where this is at. It's not just in a 5 by 5 by 5 foot location, which is a standard warehouse pallet location, which is 125 cubic feet. We're going to be able to say, pinpoint exactly where it is in that 125 cubic feet, so that when it needs to go out the door, we can go right to the location, grab it, and ship it out the door.
Perfect asset visibility.
Yes.
Talk metrics with me, Joe. What do the numbers look like that you're driving toward? What does success look like from a numbers perspective?
So our current warehouse solution pre-IOC, right now we're looking at projected 55% reduction in actual workforce.
Wow.
An increase of roughly around 65% of velocity of gear, actually issuing that gear forward to the warfighting Marine. And then you look at accountability, that total asset accountability, existence completeness, that auditability term. We're looking at greater than 98% accuracy for an inventory standpoint. Safety is paramount in any one of these operations that we're talking about, whether it be the Marine Corps or some of our other clients within the DoD space. So in some of the applications where we've actually deployed similar warehouse technology, we're actually seeing a reduction of about 83% in material handling gear, touching that material, and actually that could or could not result in a work-related casualty or work-related incident, down manned hours.
Does that plug into the larger DoD audit, Dan?
Absolutely. And we like to think that we're leading DoD. We believe that we are best in DoD today. We're not perfect yet, but we have gone under audit, and we're getting there. And the metrics really do speak for themselves, how much we've improved with our partners with KPMG over the last 5 years across the board. And then what we learn with what we're doing currently in Albany, Georgia, we are exporting out to the rest of the Marine Corps, and in fact, actually the rest of the Joint Force. We believe that we're a model for this, and so we have other services coming in, looking at our stuff and how we're doing it. We believe we're pretty much revolutionizing warehousing with smart warehousing.
We're here, Joe, at Sea Air Space, National Harbor, Maryland. One of the larger themes of this overall conference is supply chain-oriented issues. How are these two things related, warehousing and the larger supply chain for DoD?
So I think after the requisition procurement, it's storing of that gear, being a good steward of that gear, the taxpayers' dollars, actually having it within inside of 4 walls within a warehouse. From there, it's about the transportation of that gear and the visibility of that gear, not only in transit, but when it's inside the warehouse, which is what the solution really focuses on within the LogComm effort down in Albany. When you start moving that material further forward, it's, do I have visibility of it? Where is it? In possession of whom? What condition it is? And really getting the platforms that are the consumer of that material up and running. So whether that be aviation components like an F-18 or a Joint Strike Fighter, it's how do we get that platform up, and then get that forward deployed to the tip of the spear.
Dan, I'm going to recap here because we're getting close to the tail end of the first part of our conversation. You're looking to, it sounds like, increase inventory, reduce labor, reduce manpower, make that inventory more accurate, that perfect visibility that you're talking about.
Yes.
What about reduction of space? Is there a facilities component to this conversation?
There absolutely is. There's a huge impact on reduction in space. So as we're going through this, we have learned that density of pack, using these 1960s, 1970s, in some cases 1940 warehouses, and and designing them, the internal of that, so that we can pack very densely. So we have narrow aisle forklifts, we have high lifts that, and we reduce the size of each compartment that you would store stuff in, and so that we're not storing air. And so what that's done for us down in Albany, Georgia, is what used to be held in 9 warehouses just 6 years ago will now be held in 1 warehouse.
Wow.
And then we can reutilize those warehouses because we hold a lot of heavy military equipment. Think light assault vehicles, LAVs, AAVs, amphibious assault vehicles, trucks. Big capital investment that the nation puts into this equipment, because these trucks are worth $250,000 or more in some configuration. We're able to use those warehouses, and we park the stuff inside the warehouses so they're not sitting out in the hot sun of Albany, Georgia, or in Barstow, California, or in places forward. Get that stuff out. It's just like what you and I do. We try to park our cars in the garage, right? It's going to keep it longer. It's going to keep it safer. So that's what we're trying to do here, and we're seeing a big payoff. When we fully move into this smart warehouse here in about 6 months, we will have freed up 8 other warehouses that I can park military equipment in and get it out of the sun and keep its service life much, much longer.
What does the word resilience have to do with this conversation, Joe?
From a standpoint of supply chain is, how do I get that material where it needs to go? I can do that in a contested environment, have that total perfect asset visibility of the material and transporter and gear and storage. So resilience is, from a competitive standpoint, can we get that material downrange appropriately, quickly, and in the condition that it needs to be to benefit that Marine or that sailor forward deployed.
So there's a tip of the spear benefit.
Oh,
here.
absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, I'll kind of go off on a tangent, but so I traveled up here and I'm staying in a hotel. I didn't bring towels. Why didn't I bring towels? Because I knew there would be towels in the hotel. We want to have that ability for our Marines, soldiers, sailors, and airmen forward so that they don't have to bring everything, put the capital investment just to bring this stuff, all the costs it takes to move it forward, and Iron Mountains, if you will. We're getting out of the Iron Mountain business by having total, perfect asset visibility, total accountability, and it's in the right place at the right time for the right reason.
Stay tuned, everyone, as we continue this conversation with Dan and pivot the discussion to how 5G technologies have accelerated smart solutions. We'll be right back.
The DoD is leading with 5G innovation to strengthen our nation's warfighting capabilities by creating a leap-ahead opportunity for a U.S. military storage command. Pairing smart warehouse applications and 5G capabilities, KPMG estimates the U.S. military can reduce labor cost by more than 55%, increase speed of gear by more than 65%, maximize warehouse storage to over 90%, and improve auditability and accountability of gear and storage to more than 98% accuracy. To achieve these game-changing outcomes, a U.S. military department selected KPMG to help build the U.S. military's first 5G smart warehouse prototype. KPMG's approach will help achieve leap-ahead capabilities, including the ability to make simulation-informed decisions and leverage intelligent decision support, actionable utilization insights, and real-time performance views. Your mission is critical, your outcomes vital. With a modular, digitalized, customizable, end-to-end solution, KPMG can help federal agencies achieve leap-ahead capabilities and game-changing outcomes by combining 5G and smart technologies to deliver an integrated global warehouse management solution. Learn how this can work. View your future KPMG 5G warehouse with a virtual reality visit.
Welcome back to Empowering Defense Through 5G Smart Warehousing, a dispatch from Sea Space, brought to you by KPMG. Let's learn more now about the underpinnings of smart warehousing, including 5G. Here again, Dan Elzy, Deputy Commander, Marine Force Storage Command. Thanks for sticking around.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
And Michael Flattery, Director of Emerging Technologies at KPMG. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So, Michael, you heard the first part of our conversation. Where does 5G plug into it?
5G is critical. And maybe it behooves us to spend a few minutes talking about 5G and bringing it down to the application with a smart warehouse. So as everybody knows, 5G is clearly a marketing gimmick with the telecommunication carriers. It is a global standard. It's the top of the line, the next generation of telecommunications that's out there. What we don't know, and what a lot of people don't realize, is that it's really made for the enterprise user. So there are specific feature sets within 5G that cater to enterprise or business use cases. And just quickly, there's three of them. One is called ultra reliability and low latency. Think of terms of autonomy. So that's the quickness at which the network talks to the end user. The second of which is machine type communications. That's the digitization of a warehouse, of a city, of any environment that takes the physical and turns it into digital. So it's the capability of being able to manage hundreds of thousands of these in a network. And then finally it's called enhanced mobile broadband. And that's just about the offload of all the data that's out there. So the carriers have it, we have it as individual users. It's made for the enterprise, so what does that mean? So the DoD was one of the first ones to capitalize upon 5G as a solution set. So back in 2020, they had a 5G implementation strategy. That was combined with the tranches that they set up to start to facilitate the emergence and the acceptance of 5G within their services, and also to attract a lot of the commercial entities that are out there. One such tranche was a smart warehouse tranche. They had, they focused on AR, VR. They also focused on just spectrum communications across the line. So DoD is an accelerator for 5G and bringing it into the environment. So when we take another step further, we can talk about the Marine Corps Logistics Space Albany. And Mr. Elzy here, runs at this point. So basically what we've done there and what the DoD has done there is implemented a private network. So that's a network where the DoD will actually own that network and be able to manage it and control it. So here you've seen 5G from a top view all the way down to an application level and being forced to use at the warehouse, sir.
So Michael talks about the underpinnings there, low latency, private networks. How does DoD view 5G? Does it view it as that technology accelerator, or is there something more?
Well, so we certainly, it does accelerate our technology. It enables us to plug in a whole host of applications within a smart warehouse, which really gets down to, can we get centimeter level fidelity on billions of dollars worth of supply? How do we track that and keep that? And so 5G really enables a lot of communications devices working all at once. So we're going to have autonomous robots in there that are able to drive on their own, go to a location, grab a pallet, bring it out, pick it. We're removing people out of the loop. We're automating what we're doing, and 5G really enables that capability.
Is there a communication hurdle, Mr. Elzy, that you have to overcome there? And by that I mean, Michael mentions the marketing aspect of 5G. I mean, the telecom companies have been incredibly effective at using that as a marketing tool. Do you internally have to let your leadership know in a different way that 5G is about more than just cell phones? It's more than just wireless communications. We are trying to solve for some big strategic issues here.
Right, and I think the leadership really understands it, and of course DoD really understands the capability and the capacity that this is going to bring to. For us, it's a smart warehouse solution. So I think in general, folks understand it because again, folks understand technology because they're walking around with $2,000 computers in their pocket that talk to other computers. But this tranche, this 5G experimentation that we're doing with DoD is enabling us to just quickly accelerate all of the concepts, the density of pack, the automated warehouse tools, and then actually having that perfect asset visibility.
Modernization efforts are not easy. You're trying to take legacy technology, legacy systems, rip them out, keep everything running at the same time, and replace it with something new, something more sophisticated. As you have spun up smart warehousing for the Marine Corps, have you encountered any challenges, anything that our audience can learn from?
Well, I think we've learned a lot, obviously, in the smart warehousing. High density pack, quit storing air. We talked about that in the earlier segment, where we're able to collapse down our inventory into much tighter spaces, but at the same time increasing the accountability and the auditability of it, because we are getting tremendous asset visibility, and we're working towards perfect asset visibility. But it wasn't a hard sell within the Marine Corps. Our warehouses essentially, and all throughout DoD, I thought it was just the Marine Corps when I first came into this shop. But I've been throughout DoD and I've seen the warehouses, and they're all still using mid-century of 19th century, 20th century, actually 20th century technology. It's not a hard sell to say we have to get better at this, and otherwise we'll be left behind and become irrelevant. For example, 6 years ago, it took us about 14 months to do an inventory of capital military equipment. Today, using passive RFID, we're able to conduct those inventory in a matter of hours. And so it's not a hard sell when you're able to do it. But the obstacles, there are technical issues that KPMG and the DoD are working through, and they're doing a pretty phenomenal job at doing it, and they're delivering what the Marine Corps expects from them.
Michael, let's step back from Marine Corps for a moment. You work with public sector organizations all across the spectrum, private sector ones too. What are some of the common challenges you see organizations needing to address there at the outset? What are steps 1, 2, and 3?
Organizations typically approach a situation of what's the pain point. And what's critical is for them to always step back and understand it, looking at it from the perspective that they're going in for an enterprise solution. So they always have to have that hat on, is what this solution is and how does it fit back into my organization. So the first part of that is having an architecture at an enterprise level. The second part of that is going and understanding what's the business case, what are they trying to solve, and what's the what's that justification to be able to solve that. So it gets into the requirements that are necessary. So how do I solve the problem at hand? And then the other thing that we found is critically important is to be able to go out there and find the best partners and the best solution that's available. You really have to blend the competencies that are out there in the ecosystem. 5G is a burgeoning ecosystem. There's players at different maturity and different depths. It's really important to understand what the requirements are, who can solve it the best, and then working with that client to make sure that it's being perfectly met and deployed.
We've been talking largely about smart warehousing, but it strikes me that this focus, digitization, autonomy, visibility or perfect visibility, as Dan pulls out here, is applicable in a lot of different areas. If we're stepping back from smart warehousing, what are a few other places where you could apply lessons learned in this field to something else?
It's all about transformation. And the transformation is a digital transformation. So when you look at these technologies that are out there, you can apply them in just about any sort of business use case that's there. So you can take it and look into the health industry. You can take it and look into industrial manufacturing, Industrial 4.0. These capabilities are very portable. So you can take it in one situation and apply it to another situation with even keel.
And one of the big pieces that we're looking at, it's great, and certainly within industry, but within Logistics Command, we plan on exporting this technology to all the Marine Corps forces, all the Marine Corps formations, out there, especially in the business when they're in the business of supply. So at every turn, we look at the technology that we're getting, and we make sure that it's adaptable, scalable, and deployable, so that it's not just going to be in Albany and it's not just going to be in Barstow, California, but we want to have this worldwide and compete with other nations logistically, which in and of itself can be a deterrent. So we're looking to do that, and we're working with Third Marine Logistics Group. They're building warehouses in Guam. We are working with them to help design the insides of those warehouses so that they can learn the lessons that we've learned, and we can take this forward.
What are some of the coming technological challenges? Where has the technology not necessarily caught up with the goals for smart warehousing?
That's a good question. I mean, when you look at 5G, I look at it, it's an innovation layer. It's communications. We don't see it, we don't understand it, we don't have to. What it is, it's about its rich feature set that's out there. So a lot of the advancements that people dream about, we haven't realized it yet because that innovation platform is not completely rolled out yet. It's an evolution. So as the 5G environment becomes richer in that feature set and the technology ecosystem evolves, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of the revolution that we just think about at this point in time. So it's in front of us and it's coming, but it does take some time.
Dan, we've talked a lot about the technology. We've talked about the future focus and how it enhances soldiers at the tip of the spear. One thing we haven't covered that I think is interesting is the potential morale implications of doing this successfully. Let me give you a little bit of context.
Okay.
My brother was on the USS Carl Vinson, and one of the things that drove him crazy when he was enlisted was moving stuff from one place to another and then having to move it right back. I mean, is there just sort of a workload efficiency aspect to this conversation that we haven't hit yet?
Oh, yeah, well, absolutely. So our workers, we've had a select few of our workforce working with this 5G technology team and working with the smart warehouse. And so again, a few years ago, they're working with stubby pencils and paper to do their job. Now they see how easy this is to do their job. It eliminates a lot of keystrokes, a lot of manual labor for them, and it enables them to do their job better, faster, quicker. And we're seeing, at least initially, people are very excited about this. So we're coming from an age of probably a TA312 wired phone, and now we're handing people smartphones because that's the technology that they were using. And now that they've got a smartphone, how that opens up, it makes life a lot easier, and it gives them the pride, because this is a workforce that has worked very hard to get accountability and auditability, but they're without the technology, it makes that ability to do that work levels of magnitude more difficult. But now that you've got the technology that we're inserting, they can duly take pride in their work. So there is a morale issue. And I do understand. We're moving, we call that, what your brother faced, we call that asset tourism. It's just moving around. Well, now we're using this technology that says, this is where you need to put it, and this is why you need to put it there, and this is where it's going to stay until you need to pull it off the shelf and go. And we don't have to keep doing rework, if you will, and moving stuff.
Michael, tie a bow on this conversation for us. What did we miss?
I think what we've missed is the future that's still in front of us. We can take and evolve all of our solutions from a 5G layer, from an integrated technology layer, from a scalability layer, to bring this all back together again, to optimize our processes, to make people proud of what they do and how they do it, and to better serve our country.
Michael, Dan, thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
To all of our speakers, thanks for joining us. Thanks to the Navy League of the United States for hosting us here in National Harbor, Maryland at Sea Air Space 2023. And a big thanks to KPMG for making this program possible. Finally, thank you, our audience, for tuning in. I hope you walk away from today's conversations with a few ideas for implementing 5G and smart solutions in a modern workplace for your organization. For GovExec TV, I'm George Jackson. Have a great day.